Today, let's discuss a bit about the life of Guru Padmasambhava. Let's study a little, accumulate a little. During Guru Padmasambhava's short stay in Jamara using sandalwood, he carved a statue of noble Avalokiteshvara and built a small Tara chapel at Vikramashila Monastery. Guru Padmasambhava also loved creating Buddha statues and building monasteries. In the future, when there's opportunity, now perhaps we have the ability but may not have the place, or perhaps may not have the conditions. Originally, if there are conditions, building some monasteries and creating Buddha statues is very important. Guru Padmasambhava also did this. He didn't say, I am Guru Padmasambhava, I don't need to do any of these worldly virtuous deeds. Everything is attachment, everything is conceptual. He didn't say this. Subsequently, he came to the glorious Udayana realm, because previously he had been driven away by the king of Udayana and his people. Eventually, the king also died vomiting blood within 7 days. Now the king was gone, so he took in disciples with karmic connections as much as possible. Then he returned and again began accepting disciples and also built a Buddha hall. At that time, near Udayana, in a place called Kacha, Buddhism was also reviving quite promisingly. The king was a lay Pandita. Actually, from this, we can also see that at that time in the Udayana realm, things were quite troublesome for Guru Padmasambhava, so later he left. After leaving, he relied on these masters elsewhere and wandered in charnel grounds. As a result, it helped his accomplishment. In our lives, sometimes we also encounter some troubles. Of course, we cannot compare ourselves with Guru Padmasambhava, but if we ourselves are relatively steadfast, when we encounter some situations, if we don't lose confidence in ourselves and practice in another place, we will still progress even more. So here at any time, we cannot be as powerful as Guru Padmasambhava, but no matter what, in life there are many. For example, when we're sick, you use the period of illness for practice and study. Or whenever there are changes in life, this is very important to treat it as another kind of opportunity. For example, if you must leave the monastery, if you must go to a place, then there's no need to keep crying. Now, isn't our institute saying that all students' vehicles cannot be kept inside the institute? This is also good. See it as an opportunity for practice. Otherwise, at that time complaining, at that time suffering. It seems the female practitioners don't have many. I don't know whether there are many vehicles among monks. If there are, still view it as an opportunity. Sometimes change is still very important. Here it says the king was a lay Pandita. Now I quite recommend that. Of course, in the Tibetan region, having monastics teach the Dharma as the main approach is very good. But in other cities, there are too few monastics, and there's no way for them to extensively teach the Dharma. So those with wisdom and ability, here also, at that time, the king was a lay Pandita. A Pandita surely teaches the Dharma, right? Otherwise, what use is a Pandita who says nothing? What's the point? There's no need for that. So many years ago, we also had some people, for example, now in many schools, there are lecturers. So in our Buddhism, there are also some Buddhists with lay status who teach some Dharma. Now, the wisdom of some lay people far exceeds certain individual Dharma teachers because they continuously study and continuously practice. In this way, there will definitely be benefit. So within the scope of what one can teach, teaching the Dharma to others is also very important. In the Muladhana realm, in a city called Bagada, the ruler was an Iranian named Tereja. Tereja was Turkic. This one was very powerful. At that time, much of the Buddha Dharma was also destroyed by him. Originally, they were at first nomadic peoples like the Mongolians. His army destroyed all the places in Gaza and damaged some Buddhist academies. When they were preparing to launch a major attack, some soldiers were in boats, some swimming, and when they reached the banks of the Neela River, Guru Padmasambhava on the riverbank, through gazing, through the mudra of threatening, performed subjugation. As a result, 7 large ships and approximately 500 dugout rafts, along with those swimming, all sank into the river. It seems a bit cruel, but sometimes Buddhism cannot be provoked either. Otherwise, if provoked, just with one mudra of threatening, then it would be very powerful. All of Tereja's forces were completely annihilated. Since that time, generation after generation, that place has never again suffered invasion by Tereja. Guru Padmasambhava's monastic name was Pema Akara, Padmakara, Lotus-Born. The secret name received in empowerment in the mandala was Padmasambhava, meaning possessing lotus birth. The people of Udayana's former appellation was Padma Vajra, meaning lotus Vajra. Because on his forehead there was a Vajra-adorned blooming lotus pattern, this was the reason. When he was young, his name was Padma Avabhasa, lotus light. His disciples respectfully called him Sri Mahasukha, meaning glorious great bliss. Later, when he went to Udayana, the people of Udayana, because his activities were the same as the former glorious great bliss Pema Vajra, therefore commonly called him Padma Vajra, Lotus Vajra. Looking at the above, I see there are approximately 6 names, 6 different names. Then in 2009, I believe, I taught a commentary on the 7-line prayer. At that time, I gave everyone an introduction to the 8 manifestations of Guru Padmasambhava. At that time, what basis I relied on, I can't recall. But today, I'll briefly introduce these images of the 8 manifestations of Guru Padmasambhava, because the sources are quite numerous. But how this came about at that time, I'm not very clear. If there was text at that time, there should have been teaching notes. First, there should be an overall Thangka. This is the Thangka of the 8 manifestations of Guru Padmasambhava. Everyone should know this. In it, generally around the periphery, are Guru Padmasambhava's 8 different manifestations plus 2 dakins. The entire Thangka of the 8 manifestations of Guru Padmasambhava. In the Tibetan region, we often say Guru Senge. Most people surely know this. There's not much to say about this. Of course, regarding the names, including what His Holiness taught in The Journey to the West and also in other Dharma treasures. Some names and forms are also different. Different painting schools also have different accounts. But in any case, first is the first one called Padmakara, the Lotus-Born. Initially, the syllable Hruj from Amitabha's heart shot into the sea of Udayana's Dhanakosha lake, and within a flower pistil an 8-year-old boy was born. Later, King Indrabhuti of Udayana, he himself had no prince. Then, through making offerings to the 3 jewels, he himself believed this was bestowed upon him by the 3 jewels. At that time, it was Minister Jinamitra who saw him, and after telling the king was extremely joyful. This is called Padmakara. As for Padmakara, Chakdara, the other day we mentioned in Pakistan, at that time in our map there was Chakdara. Chakdara is said to be the present-day Dhanakosha. There is such an account. At that time, beside the Swat River Valley, it seems when looking at the map, there's something like a lake inside. Perhaps what we said at that time was that Dhanakosha was an ocean, but it may not necessarily be an ocean. Perhaps it was a lake. It's said to be present-day Chakdara, something like Dhanagoka. As for Dhanagoka, it's said that at that time it was also a large city or something. So whether the miraculous birth school or the womb birth school, both can acknowledge in the future that this is Guru Padmasambhava's first manifestation. This is called Padmakara. Then the second is called the Wrathful Guru. As for the Wrathful Guru, when Guru Padmasambhava subdued the son of a corrupt minister, the king was displeased and exiled him to a charnel ground. What we discussed earlier, the account is quite similar, because at that time there was the minister and the king. Then, in the charnel ground, Guru Padmasambhava taught supreme Dharma to humans and non-humans. For those without karmic connection, when some spirits and deities developed wrong views toward the Buddha Dharma, Guru Padmasambhava appeared in wrathful form to subdue them. This is what we commonly call the Wrathful Guru. Then the third is called Guru Shakya Senge, Lion of the Shakyas. At that time when Guru Padmasambhava was at Vajrasana in India, he displayed various miraculous powers. At this time, some people didn't believe and slandered him. At this time, Guru Padmasambhava manifested in monastic form. In what we discussed earlier, it seems in the original account it said he ordained before Prabhahasti. In our account here, it says he ordained before Buddhajana. This should be what appeared when he was at Vajra seat in India. So generally in paintings, there is this manifestation, of course, whether Buddhajana or Prabhahasti. At that time, Buddhajana was the preceptor. Perhaps Prabhahasti was the karma akarya. It's possible. The two don't contradict. Some histories don't contradict. The fourth is the supreme wisdom seeker. At that time, before Shirsima and Buddha-Guhya, he received the instructions of Dzogchen. Then when receiving some tantras at that time, all the tantras were at his fingertips. Therefore, he was called the supreme wisdom seeker, Lodan Chokse. Then the fifth, Padma Totreng Tsal, Padma Tutreng Tsal. At that time, before King Zahor, he displayed various miraculous powers, transforming a sea of fire into a lake of water. Then his body was adorned with various skull garlands. So Padma Tutreng Tsal, but in this one, Tutreng doesn't seem to be there. In some other paintings previously, it's there. These skull flower garlands, this Padma Tutreng Tsal, this is where His Holiness also went previously. Now Zahor, that place in northern India, the sixth Padma Gyalpo, the Lotus King. At that time, King Zahor developed great faith in Guru Padmasambhava, and so he became the national preceptor, serving for 13 years. The king's treasury was completely opened, including the lotus hat. All offerings were given to Guru Padmasambhava. This is called the Lotus King, Padma Gyalpo. On his head should be a lotus hat, this Lotus King. Then the seventh, Nima Oza, the rays of the sun. Guru Nima Oza in the charnel ground. When displaying various kinds of extreme conduct, he taught the Dharma to the Dakin assembly, and also subdued some spirits and deities. When subduing them, he rode upon sunlight, displaying various miraculous powers upon the sunlight. Therefore, he's called Guru Nima Oza. Beside him is a sun. The meaning is that he displayed various miraculous powers upon sunlight. The eighth is called Senge Dradrok, Lion's Roar Guru. Lion's Roar Guru at Vajrasana in India. At that time, through debate, he defeated 500 people with wrong views and also subdued some people with sorcery. Then he displayed miraculous powers for them, called Guru Senge Dradrok. These 8 manifestations of Guru Padmasambhava, actually in different prayer texts, there are different manifestations. At that time, I can't remember which one it was. Didn't they previously compile many editions of Guru Padmasambhava's teachings? In it, at that time, it seems one was relied upon, and there are some differences within. But this can be decided later, approximately like this. In this, as people who practice Guru Padmasambhava, some painters might understand, but some people don't recognize them at all. What is this? If looking rather superficially, they can't even distinguish the 8 manifestations. This is also not very good. So in the future, we ourselves should also, when I taught originally, I also said all sorts of other Thangkas are not necessary. I see some people display in their homes a Thangka of Martin Luther King. Some people have Obama's Thangka from before. I haven't seen Trump's Thangka yet. Among our monks, there are also some. I've truly seen them in photos taken by others. This probably isn't very good. As a Buddhist, especially as a monastic, if you're going to display a Thangka, wouldn't a Thangka of the 8 manifestations of Guru Padmasambhava be better? Otherwise, when studying in the past, in many dormitories, they display Andy Lau and such. So for monastics to display these above their beds, wouldn't it be better to have a Thangka of Guru Padmasambhava? Of course, one can think about whatever one wants, like whatever one wants. In the end, they might all turn into such celebrities. It's possible.
Padmakara, Padmakara,